So there's some trouble in paradise, y'all. There's something really, really interesting happening on the Democratic side. So the other day, there was an article. I forget which publication it was in, but there was a line in an article that basically said, well, Kamala Harris's view is that what's going on in Israel and Gaza right now, it's Joe Biden's decisions. It's not hers. She would do it differently. And as soon as I saw that, my spidey senses started going off. And I thought, that's interesting. So she's not showing, like, unity with Joe. She's not trying to own the decisions with Joe. And the only way a line like that gets in an article is if there's a source close to Kamala Harris that tells a reporter that that's their perspective and position. And you would only do that if you want to distance yourself from what Biden is doing because you feel like it's a political loser, okay? So after that article came out, the very next day, look at this, NBC News. Administration officials watered down Kamala Harris's Gaza speech before delivery. 3 current U.S. officials and former U.S. officials said the National Security Council toned down parts of Harris's widely covered speech. The vice president's office denied it was watered down. So in the headline and the sub-headline, we get, well, they watered down her speech. She wanted to go further, but they watered it down. But, they come out and say, that's not true. We're denying that. Okay, let's go through it a little bit, and then I'll tell you what's going on here. Before Vice President Kamala Harris delivered pointed remarks Sunday about the need for an immediate 6-week ceasefire between Israel and Hamas as part of a deal to release hostages, officials at the National Security Council toned down parts of her speech. 3 current U.S. officials and former U.S. official familiar with the speech told NBC News. The original draft of Harris's speech, which, when it was sent to the National Security Council for review, was harsher on Israel about the dire humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip and the need for more aid than were the remarks she ultimately delivered, according to one of the current officials and the former official. 2 of the U.S. officials said the initial draft specifically called out Israel more directly about the need to immediately allow additional aid trucks in. One of them described Harris's original language as strong but not controversial. The move to soften Harris's comments highlights how reluctant the White House still is to aggressively criticize Israel in public, as President Joe Biden tries to maintain some influence over the Israeli government and secure a hostage deal. The current officials said that the changes were tonal rather than shifts in policy, and the Harris comments about a ceasefire, which were widely covered, reiterated Biden's remarks 2 days earlier and the administration's position on the war. Asked about the reports that the speech Sunday was watered down and made to be less aggressive, Kirsten Allen, Harris's communications director, said, "That is inaccurate." Allen also provided NBC News with a separate statement explaining Harris's stance on her remarks. So now this is the second article that has come out, which is an attempt to distance Kamala Harris from Joe Biden's position on Gaza. And the implication is, well, she's a little stronger on the issue, and she feels like all the decisions of the administration are not exactly correct. And so understand that Joe Biden owns what's going on here. Kamala, if she had her druthers, would go further. She would, be stronger on this issue. So what do I think happened here? Now, this part is all speculation, but I've now seen enough in the media to come out and make this comment. My guess is Kamala's own people are the ones who leaked this to NBC News. They leaked it. They said, well, Kamala's language was even stronger than what she ultimately delivered, but she was forced to water it down. But they can't just come out and say it's us saying that. So they sort of come up with this convoluted backstory, and they also come out and deny it. So in other words, my theory is they're the ones, Kamala's people are the ones who come out and tell this to the media. Then they turn around and deny it. So that this way, when Biden and his people read this, they have the plausible deniability to be like, hey man, that wasn't us. That wasn't us. We didn't say that. We came out and said it was inaccurate. But what's really going on here is Kamala is trying to position herself for, if Joe can't actually be the nominee, if the DNC is unhappy and they want to make some changes, she's trying to position herself where hey, she's better on this issue, and this is Biden's biggest weakness. This is where he's hemorrhaging votes the most. So she's the vice president, so she would be the heir apparent anyway, and she's trying to clean up her image on this issue where he's the weakest. It looks like what we're seeing is the beginning of a move against Biden. Now, look, to be clear, it is too early to say that definitively. I'm just giving my opinion on it. But it's not a coincidence now that you've had, this is the second time on this issue, there's a hint of, well, I mean, obviously Kamala's better on this issue and Biden's the one who owns all the mistakes. The only reason you would do that is you're trying to position yourself for you to eventually become the person. You to eventually be the leader. Wow. And I have to say, if that is indeed what's going on here, it's very smart politics. It's very smart politics. Because they're saying, oh, she's stronger on this issue of Gaza, right? But then they're also giving just enough plausible deniability to say, we didn't say that. And so you can appease Biden and his team while also posturing to be the heir apparent and trying to fix the issue that they seemingly know Biden messed up the most. And by the way, there were reports early on in one of the speeches Biden gave after October 7th, when it was like 2 or 3 weeks into Israel's destruction of Gaza, Biden was going to give a speech, and he wasn't going to say anything about Palestinians or Muslims. And Kamala Harris, according to reports, was like, you should have a line in there about how, yeah, we're against anti-Semitism, we're also against Islamophobia. And the Biden team hadn't thought about that. They weren't going to put anything in about Palestinians or Muslims. And Kamala had to bring up, like, put in a line against Islamophobia. And they're like, oh, okay, right, let's do that. And so again, that was an instance early on in this where she was trying to be like, hey, you know, I have better instincts on this stuff. I'm better on this issue. And now it looks like they're making a play here. So we'll see if it continues. Look, I'll say this. If there's another example where there's an article basically saying, like, Kamala's better on X, Y, or Z, then you know that's what's going on. And that's three examples in a short time frame. They're trying to position themselves as she's going to be the person. If he needs to step aside or if the DNC wants to push him aside, that's what's going on here. And it's also a balancing act in the sense that she doesn't want to go so far that she pisses off the Israel lobby and then loses the support of elements of the establishment, right? But she hasn't done that yet. Because, it's 6 week ceasefire, right? Like, it's the Weasley middle ground trying to appease the Israel lobby, but also just being better than Biden on it. You know what I'm saying? So, really interesting. This is the first indication I've seen of Kamala kind of, and her team, sort of making a play to position themselves for the future. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.